I'm still working on this year of possibilities, and I really wanted a printable that I could give to my designers in Design Suite, and something that I thought would help me to help me kind of sort through some of the things that I'm doing, some of the dreams I want, bucket list items, and those kinds of things. So what I did was create 20 prompts and then 5 questions under each prompt. And then I thought I would let you see me design the whole thing and see kind of my process in creating it. So to kick this thing off, I decided to do this whole thing in InDesign. Normally, I prefer to design in Illustrator, but the reason that I decided to design in InDesign is because I knew that once I created this packet, I would probably want to create multiple design versions of this packet. That way, if someone wanted a really plain version, they could get it. If someone wanted something with some black and white flowers on it, or some of the other things I've designed. So I just thought it'd be easier to do it in InDesign. Now, I'm not in InDesign all the time anymore, so sometimes I have to go looking for things and figure things out. And then the hardest part is if you don't have an idea in your head of how you want the whole thing to be laid out, you really have to kind of double build all your parent pages, which, is sometimes a little bit difficult. So what I decided to do is open it up in InDesign and go ahead and build my first parent page. Now, the thing with this is that the best way to really kind of set the whole thing up is to do page number 1, which is what I did. So I created paragraph styles for everything, or character styles, depending on what I was working on. So you can see there are some pretty easy ways to create, like, for example, lines that go all the way through, and it makes it extremely fast. And I just went ahead and created paragraph styles for the actual type, so that it was just simple and ready to go. It does take a second to set up an InDesign file, as you can see here. I do spend a lot of time kind of setting up character styles, paragraph styles, and then building that on the parent page so that everything lays out really beautifully. Once that's done though, when I go to check it on the main spreads where I've built the main setup, then everything should work really, really nicely. Now here's the trick for a document like this. Normally, I would go ahead and put in all the illustrations and all of that on this main page, but I was feeling a little bit anxious to go ahead and get in the content. So that's where it kind of got a little tricky. I just decided, you know what, I'm going to do an override of this parent page, and I'm going to go ahead and build out all the content. Now this takes a while. Once again, I was trying to do all the boring work first. That way it was really easy later when I wanted to add in all the flowers. So I had to go page by page by page, just changing out the prompt at the top, like the section lead, the information that I had italicized, and then every single question until I'd finished all 20 pages, which did take a little bit of time to get through. But hey, getting it all right here was going to make it easy for later. So once I got that done, I actually turned to my iPad. On my iPad, I decided I was going to draw some black and white, like outlined, stroked out flowers, because I knew that kind of doing a more neutral PDF would be great for a lot of people. That way they could color it in, they could change it, all of those things. So I did these really fun kind of like peonies, and I just hand drew out all the different outlines on it. It didn't take too long. I think I watched Emily in Paris while I was doing it, which is pretty fun. And by the way, I kind of love this work because not only on the iPad or on my computer, I can turn on Emily in Paris or Gilmore Girls or whatever I want to watch and have it going in the background, and it kind of feels like this relaxing getting to work, but like also getting to play a little bit, which is why I love designing. And not everyone can do it, but especially as you've been designing for a while, you'll see that it becomes easier and easier to have a podcast going or a show going so that you're designing while you're listening to something. So I got on the iPad, I finished up all the drawings, and then I brought them over into Illustrator. Now this is the tricky thing. I had to bring them all in individually and then pull them all into Photoshop because this is a PDF file, and I wanted to set everything up in JPEGs, not in Illustrator. So you can bring in Illustrator documents into InDesign, but for this, I really wanted to control what was going on. So the first time around, I just decided I was going to play in the InDesign file to see what would happen if I brought all these images in. And you can see like I was placing them in all these various areas to see if I could get them to all fit. And once I kind of got a feel for the layout of the way I was going to put it, and I decided just to do top left corner and bottom right corner, I decided that I really need to lay them out really specifically. So I created a Photoshop file, and I set this up pretty big, pretty wide, like a 12 by 12 inch, 300 DPI, and put all the stuff in the top and the bottom corner until everything laid out the way I wanted. And you can see I have like the bigger peony piece up in the corner and in the bottom right corner, and then I have like all of these extra little buds and flowers coming off of it. And that's so that I'm not using up too much space. Of course, I want to make this PDF pretty, but I also want it to be extremely usable. And that's the difference between printables and maybe some of the other things that we design, like SVG files or Fabric, where the whole thing is just design work. Printables, it's really about content, because you really want great content in there. So once I got this laid out in the PSD file and I had it all nicely set up and everything was ready to go, I took it into InDesign. Now this process took a lot longer than it normally would if I knew what the design was going to be at the beginning, because I would have set up parent pages for it. And you'll see that I kind of figured that out as I was doing it, because I was like playing with it to see what would work. So I laid the entire set in, and as I was looking at it, so I put the top left-hand corner in, I put the bottom right-hand corner in, and I did this for all 20 pages, which took a hot second to do. It meant I had to move some of the type around, which was a little bit annoying. The second thing is, when I finished the entire thing, I realized that I really didn't like that you could see the lines through all of the flowers. So that was such a bummer, because it meant that I had to go back to the original Photoshop file. So I went to the original PSD file, and I added a white stroke line around the flower. And then I also did a select all and then an inverse, because I wanted to fill out the rest of the flower in white. This would make it so that it's really easy to lay the flowers directly on without moving all the lines. I think sometimes as designers, we get excited and we're moving all the lines around and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to do this, because I'm going to use this exact same layout for every single design that I decide to do, like all the variations. So instead, I just added all this white behind it, and that meant I had to go back in and re-put in all the flowers. Now, if I had been smart about it, I probably would have gone ahead and created a parent B page, which is what I'm going to do for the variations. But I wasn't thinking through it at that time, because I was still trying to see how it all looked. So I put in a little extra work, more than I probably could have or should have, just laying this out. So once this was done, I just called it Black and White Flowers, and created the PDF. I do like putting security settings on my PDF so that no one can go in and open this back up in InDesign and change it. So that's what I always recommend to my designers to do. All right, once the black and white version was done, it's time to kind of figure out all the other versions I wanted to do. So the first version that I should have just saved right from the get-go was a plain version. I wasn't thinking through this because I was so busy thinking about all the artwork, but I just really wanted a plain version. So I just duplicated out that file, put everything back aligned to the left, and I had a nice plain version for someone who doesn't want a lot of extras on their page, or if they want to color and draw all over it, it's just plain and ready to go. Once I was done with the plain version, I decided I would do a version that just had imagery at the top and the bottom. Okay, so that meant that I could use the plain version that I was using, and instead I spent time creating this artwork that I actually already had from a repeat I've built, and I took it, I made it smaller. You can see I've repeated it out, and then made it fit an 8.5 by I think 2 inches or 1 inch area. By doing this, I knew I could put it at the top and the bottom so that it would print out all the way. Now, one thing that I haven't said anything about is the fact that you know, most of us when we're printing on a regular printer have like a 0.25 space, a bleed edge on everything. So I don't really address that. I just went ahead and built it all the way out to the 8.5 by 11 because I figure everybody can print it the way they want, which is why I give it digitally. For mine, on my printer, it doesn't even print on a full 0.5. It prints very, very thin. So that kind of works out really nicely for me. All right, so I decided to put it at the top and the bottom, and here's where going really fast, it works really, really nicely. So all I did was create a parent B page, and I went ahead and put that top edge of design work and the bottom edge on it. Then when I went back into the main spreads and I was on the first spread, I just right click on it and I change it to a new parent. So originally it was parent A, but I had already overridden everything on parent A. So I knew all this stuff would stay in here. So what I did instead was I turned it into parent B, and that immediately put it on the top and the bottom. It got the design work in there. And then just to make sure that it all worked good on the first one, I went ahead and selected all 20 pages at once, right clicked on it, and changed it over to the parent B, and that did it for all of them. So this document was really fast to create. So once you create the first one, a couple of ones. The first one was really about figuring out where I was going to lay the artwork. The second one was getting it all plain and ready to go. And then the third one was so fast because I just used the plain document to turn it into these top and bottom layers of artwork. So for the fourth one, I decided I really wanted to use this wildflower artwork that I've used before. This artwork is stuff that I've used on my Design Profit and Prosper book, and I just haven't used it for a lot of things. So I decided to create a printable for it. And because I wanted to make it easy, I tried to build out all of these little flowers, which I had to pull over from an Illustrator document. I had to pull it all over and take it and then kind of arrange it the way I did the black and white flowers. Why did I do this? I just thought it would be easier because then I'm not rearranging too many things, which ended up working out pretty nicely for me. So what I did was go ahead and lay out the top and the bottom so that both of them were ready to go. And then I did the same thing that I did from my parent pages. Like I built a parent B that had this top and bottom area where I placed both of these images so that they were ready to go. And then when I went back to the master spreadsheet, I just right clicked on it and changed everything to that parent B, and it immediately put in those images. Now I am using the set that already had all of the text kind of pushed over, and so I did have to go in and delete all the black and white images, but that was pretty easy, just like going from page to page, deleting out all the black and white. I also did have to make an adjustment on the first question. I wasn't paying attention to it and didn't realize it was the first question. I think in my head, I was thinking it was like, you know, like that italics area, like something that was more informational. And so I did have to go all the way back through and just left align everything to that first question to the other questions, which didn't take too long. So then I saved it and it was ready to go. These particular files, I did print out the black and white version, and I printed it before it was, you know, I'd put the white on it. So it has all the lines through it, but I'm just going to use it so I can save paper. I also did it so that it was back and front, and I'm putting it directly in my Year of Possibilities book, and I'm going to spend some time writing in it and getting some clarity on these things. If you're interested in these files, they're available at karinagardner.com in our shop, or you can also go to our Year of Possibilities page and daily planner page, which is designsuitecourses.com/daily planner, and you'll see links there to stickers, all the other fun things that I've put into this book, anything that you think that I've shown you in the last few YouTube videos. And you can find all the links to those things there. And if you have been wanting to start a Year of Possibilities journal or book, go check out that page, designsuitecourses.com/daily planner, because there are lots of resources there to help you get started. And as always, feel free to subscribe to the channel because there are lots of sweet Life of a Designer videos coming to you and all kinds of inspiration about design.